You can read everything about the specific edible that you're ingesting. Full terpene reports, full cannabinoid reports. We wanted to do a solventless gummy. So it actually is a cleaner process. It doesn't involve, these other byproducts, which are solvents. And it's all through the back of your tin. Every single batch has information about it, and it's just all about transparency.
When we go to these places, people are coming up to us, oh my God, I've been waiting for you guys. It's like there's never been a weed brand that's been focused on me and my audience and my people and my tribe. I'd say most of the experiences that, to me stand out the most as sort of like my highlight concerts of all time. Definitely cannabis was a part of it as well.
So here we are. We got Keith Portman from Dialed In Gummies, co-founder. Keith's on the marketing side, but we're going to talk all about cannabis and his award-winning edibles company here. Keith, man, glad to have you on here. So to start this off, take me back and about the moment, the time. Tell me the story about you guys pulling the trigger on starting this company.
Crazy. First off, thanks for having me. So we pretty much started February of 2020, right when the world was looking weird and we weren't sure what was going to happen. My buddy, who is the main genius behind this, decided to start an edibles company and started working on recipes. Got me involved for like the label design, and he just asked me to help him with a few things. And 2 years later, we have like about 55 employees, and we're pretty popular, and it's just been a crazy wild ride. And I guess let me just explain kind of what our product is and why we're doing so well, why we're in over 300 stores. When we got into the market, there was a little bit of rosin gummies on the market. A couple companies kind of worked on it. Nothing really took off, so it wasn't really a thing. My boss saw an opportunity there. Is an amazing concentrate maker, rosin maker, and started developing a recipe, found the right connections, and just started putting things together on his own. He actually was living in his car for a few months before this all got started too, which is amazing. So I'd known him for 10 years. I got involved because he knew I was doing design freelance and also web development. Then we started coming up with ideas. Well, the first idea was we're going to be a rosin company. Most of the edibles on the market, almost all the edibles on the market were made with solvents. So we wanted to do a solventless gummy. So we started working on that. How else were we gonna really make this product take off? And ironically, in a time when COVID is kicking off, and people started using QR codes a lot, before that actually happened, we were planning on doing a QR code on the back of all the tins. And this QR code would lead the buyer to a page where you can read everything about the specific edible that you're ingesting. Full terpene reports, full cannabinoid reports. We also hired a writer that was familiar with the products and what you may or may not feel when you eat the products. So we had hash maker notes and suggested use on this as well. And since we were doing small batches, anywhere from like 500 to 2,000 units per batch, every batch was going to be different. We also decided let's do single strain, which basically is unheard of in the market before us. When you go buy any other edible, it's just going to be hybrid, sativa, indica. You're not going to know which strain it came from. It's probably going to come from a variety of different strains. We only used one strain. So that kind of helped us help propel our product as well. Then we started doing collaborations with companies. Now, when an edible company starts making their product, they need to find a cultivator to buy the flower from to then make their product. But usually you don't hear who that cultivator is, where the companies got their product from. So we decided we're going to include that as well. Basically full transparency, and it's all through the back of your tin. And now we're at over like 600 batches, and every single batch has information about it. And it's just all about transparency. And that's how we took off, really.
So what is unique about a resin-based gummy compared to most of them?
Rosin-based gummy, which is what we're doing, you're basically only using water, ice, heat, and pressure. You're not using a solvent. You're not using a butane or a propane to make the product. So it actually is a cleaner process. It doesn't involve, these other byproducts, which are solvents, and
it's cleaner.
It's cleaner
because of that.
Exactly.
Right on.
Also, you could pull out more terpenes in this method. That's really important to us. It's a full spectrum extract made the cleanest way possible and put into an amazing tasting gummy.
So were you like a cannabis expert before this, or not really? You just kind of got roped in by your buddy?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I've always kind of been knowledgeable.
Have you learned some mind-blowing shit about cannabis as a plant, what it does to the mind, anything like that since you've been going down this rabbit hole?
I wish. It's just unfortunate in the world we live in today. A lot of companies that could really do a lot of good research on cannabis are really interested in doing that because it's still federally illegal. So there's so many things that we probably could have been researching for the last 5-10 years of legalized cannabis that we just can't do because the companies with all the money aren't interested in really risking it. So there's so much information out there that we're missing that we really need to get our hands on, and hopefully over time we'll get there.
Where do you see this going 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you think the industry looks like nationwide?
Oh man, certain states, I doubt we'll ever see, maybe we'll never see it there. I think it could be federally legalized, but it's just it's really promising where it is right now. And as far as where it's going, it doesn't slow down. So I don't see why it can't be 35 states, 40 states having recreational cannabis in the future. I'd like to think that. We want to think that. Right now we're in Colorado, but we've been exploring other states for the last year, and we're interested. So it would only benefit us, and it just makes sense. Why not?
Do you anticipate like e-commerce, like shipping, buying online will be a thing?
I believe so, yeah. Every state's different, and every state has different laws, so it's tough. So basically in Colorado, you've been able to order online forever. They actually just legalized delivery of cannabis in Colorado. And I think those two together are kind of important in really boosting online sales. Definitely at the start of COVID, I actually remember ordering product online and then showing up because that's how you had to do it. You were kind of forced into it. So that was kind of the stepping point, I'd say, of lots of things happening where selling online is possible. And that's definitely growing here. So I see that as it's inevitable. It's going to be a majority of the market at some point. I just don't know when. It's all about the laws in each state.
Do you have like a big, huge dream that's like a long shot of what things could end up being for your guys' company? Best case scenario, you like a glory day in the future?
Honestly, minus being in multiple states, which is a hopefully close goal for us. I never thought I'd be in a company that is this big. Never thought I'd be in a company where we had over 50 employees and we actually pay well, better than the entire industry in Colorado, which is really important and makes me feel good. I definitely have bigger dreams, but where we are now it's so rewarding. Very proud of my coworkers. So I definitely want to keep it growing and see where this goes. But even where we are now is just, I'm speechless, even though I just went on and on about.
I'm assuming you've had to branch out of your specialty in web design and graphic design through your, high level role with the company. Yeah.
Yeah, this thing's taken off. So I actually stopped taking on new clients. Everything's just kind of being forced into gummies full time. which is kind of what I always wanted. The last time I had a full-time job, a desk job, I quit because it just wasn't me. Went on tour, saw lots of music, started doing freelance on the side. It just made sense to me that if I wasn't happy, just do it on my own. And then eventually something will come along where one of my friends would need something and they would grow into a full-time job and then just grow into an amazing opportunity. And it probably took me a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but that's exactly what happened. And so I like to think I was doing something right, even though it was a struggle.
Well, hell yeah, man. So last question, wrapping up here. First though, Dialed In Gummies. That's the name of this company. If you're living in Colorado.
At Dialed In Gummies Co. At Dialed In Gummies got taken down because the industry has a shadow ban on it. And Instagram likes to take down cannabis companies' websites, which is a whole different topic. But it's quite upsetting. I know some companies that have tens of thousands of followers, and since it's federally illegal, Instagram for some reason has some issue with it. We actually had Dialed In Gummies, and that was taken down a few months ago. And now we started a new page that's at Dialed In Gummies Co. You can also reach us at dialedingummies.com to see everything about us.
Shit. Damn. Zuck.
Yeah.
As we wrap up here, top 3 artists you're listening to right now.
Oh, okay. Parcels.
Yes.
Limb Pear Trees. Or probably Limb Pear Tree. It's a French band. They're absolutely amazing. Third, man, I'll just say Humphreys. I used to listen to them nonstop. Not as much anymore, but they're still my all-time favorite, and I'm gonna see them soon. So I say those 3. But yeah, I saw Parcels in Denver last week. It was amazing, like nonstop dance party. They were absolutely incredible.
I caught their video that they did in Paris on YouTube, live show. Like they have a full. You got to check this out. Love Parcels, man.
Yeah.
Keith Portman, entrepreneur, co-founder, web designer, cannabis guy, my man, dude. Great to make your acquaintance. Thanks for coming on here.
Cam, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So here we are. We've got Kieve Huffman here. So for all you out there listening, Keive has quite the impressive background in the intersecting worlds of music and cannabis. Keive, I'm sure he'll be more than glad to tell you himself. But over a decade working in the music business, and now he's doing some really cool partnerships between cannabis brands and musicians, given Slipknot their own cannabis brand. And man, Keive, so glad to have you here, man. Why don't we start this off and you kind of just give us your story about what you're working on these days?
I worked in the music industry for about 15 years in New York, and kind of got my start managing bands. And then I started kind of getting into what was considered to be the digital side of music back in the day. And I became one of the early kind of pioneers in digital music. So helped build like the digital business for BMG and Sony BMG way back in the day. And so I kind of had a front row seat for like kind of the whole wild, wild west of like when the transition from, CDs to digital. And that was a lot of fun. And then I got kind of burnt out on New York, burnt out on the music industry, decided to move to LA, start my own companies, and kind of ended up figuring out that the cannabis industry was one that I felt like there was a lot of opportunities. I was focused on the fact that there really weren't a lot of like great brands, and not a lot of brands that really meant anything to audiences beyond a very localized sort of community, and some of that's for very good reasons, right? Because there's no interstate commerce and you can only like sell to within, your own state. But we all know that that's eventually going to change, and when it does, I felt there was a huge opportunity to build brands that actually had sort of national appeal and ultimately international appeal. And for me, the natural way to do that was kind of tapping into what I consider to be underserved audiences within the music, space. And so I have two brands right now that are part of our company. One's called Heavy Grass, and it's a brand that focuses on the hard rock heavy metal scene that you were referring to earlier. We have a partnership with Clown from Slipknot, the creative force behind that band. And then we have another brand called Neon Roots, and that brand is focused on the EDM rave scene. And, obviously two big scenes that are pretty heavy into the live music aspect of it. So one of my business partners in this is one of the biggest agents in the world in the music scene. And so what we're able to do is we're able to go and actually promote these brands at festivals, at concerts, on tours, in ways that really no other cannabis brands are kind of doing right now. Most cannabis brands are kind of marketing just kind of within the bubble of the cannabis industry, or people that we're kind of focused on hey, this is just a part of the lifestyle of these music fans, and let's go to where they already are. And what's really, really cool, is when we go to these places, people are coming up to us and like, oh my God, I've been waiting for you guys. It's like there's never been a weed brand that's been focused on me and my audience and my people and my tribe. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and it's where I'm able to kind of bring together a couple of my passions.
That's awesome. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you either like cannabis or music. I'd anticipate many of you like both. So you're really on the cutting edge of this co-partnership between cannabis brands and artists. We're really in kind of the infancy stage of this whole thing, given where the legalities are at. Where do you foresee this going in the next 10 years? And what do you think the space that you're currently operating in, how do you think 10 years from now it'll be different?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's hard to look beyond 10 weeks in this industry. I mean, things change so quickly and rapidly. 10 years, I think things are going to be extremely different. Full legalization in the US, and quite frankly, probably full legalization in most industrialized countries throughout the world. So it's going to be very, very different. There's still a little bit of a stigma to it. I think that stigma will be completely gone in 10 years. I don't think that anyone's going to look at it any differently. And already I've seen quite a change just even in the last, I'd say, year or two, because also a lot of the public opinions have really changed a lot, right? I think something like 63 or 64% of all Americans now think that cannabis should be fully legal. And I think 87% think that it medically should be legal. And where I see things going is that, look, it's like in any other sort of, consumer packaged good industry, people are going to have their go-to brands, right? And right now, those don't exist in cannabis because cannabis industry, from a legal side, is just now starting to rise up. It's really at its very beginnings. And because it's state by state, there are very few brands that are really building for, a national audience. And so the approach that we're taking is kind of flipping it. Rather than build for local audiences, we're building for a national audience from day one, right? Because look, there's rock metal fans everywhere, right? And if you can be the go-to brand for that audience, then it's going to be really easy for you to become a national brand overnight, versus a lot of these cannabis brands, well, they're very local. They have to go and re-educate, everyone state by state, I think a lot of the stigmas will be gone in 10 years. At least I hope. It's kind of crazy that they still exist today, honestly.
Can you talk to me just about your raw love for cannabis and music in general, and kind of what you think cannabis does to the mind that allows for that musical experience to be amplified?
Look, I had the good fortune. Look, I've been a music fan, my whole life. My mother was a musician. I grew up learning how to play a musical instrument. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of choosing the clarinet. And so what was interesting is when I started going to concerts, that's when I first, sort of experienced cannabis. So for me, it was with music, and with the live music experience. And for me, it just opened up a whole nother realm and world, like from day one, where I was like, oh yeah, these all go together. This experience now is that much more special, and I can feel things and hear things differently, because the cannabis, for me at least, it's opening up my receptivity to being able to enjoy and experience the music in a way that I still enjoy it if I'm not high, but it's a different kind of visceral experience. For anyone that has experienced it, they know, like that moment where you're just in the groove and you're fully like just connected to the music. You feel like these instruments are speaking to you, right? And that you're like on this journey with the band that evening, kind of always gone a little bit, hand in hand. I'd say most of the experiences that, to me stand out the most as sort of like my highlight concerts of all time. Definitely cannabis was a part of it as well.
Cannabis can make some people feel very anxious. Can you talk to me about nervousness and anxiety leading into doing just into a huge moment for you, and just internally within yourself, how you kind of approach that and handle your anxiety?
Recently, over the last couple of years, I have become really someone who's read a lot of Stoic philosophy. So my way of dealing with anxiety more recently is, don't freak out about things that you have no control over. And also I meditate a lot now. I meditate every day, so that helps with anxiety. I mean, there's a lot of anxiety in running a startup, but just kind of staying grounded and just, for me, it's like meditate. I do my daily affirmations. I read my stoicism, and what I will say is that I don't find, for me, cannabis is not something that I use to self-medicate for anxiety.
Keive, I love that you brought up stoicism. If anyone out there listening wants an introduction, I would love to recommend Ryan Holiday, an amazing author about stoicism. One thing that kind of ripped the Band-Aid off here, we look at our lives, such a sentimental feeling to look at our lives, to think about on our deathbed, looking back, what matters, and then the feeling of our mortality and knowing that life is finite. And this is very, very relevant in Stoic philosophy. They talk a lot about death as a companion. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. If, for example, let's say your nephew or niece or daughter were having kind of like a little mini panic attack over maybe their potential mortality, or a loved one dies. Like, how do you kind of frame death?
For a lot of people that like kind of look at stoicism, I think sometimes they look at it sort of a depressing subject, right? And it's like, oh, like why would you want to look at, death, as something? But what it really does is it kind of forces you to kind of appreciate like every day that you have, right? So it's really more of like, how are you living your current moment? And so for me, it's like, I can't control what's going to happen, in the future. I don't know how long I have to go, it's left to live. But what I can control is living my life to its fullest extent today, right? And that's all I can do. And I can just go in with all the enthusiasm, and it's like carpe diem. And it's like, it's like, hey, seize it every day. It's a gift, right? Every day that you're on this planet, right? So to take advantage of it. For people that fear, it's like the only thing that's guaranteed in life is death, right? I mean, really, at the end of the day, like that's what everyone. So it's a little bit challenging. Like, look, I have a 13-year-old son. It's interesting. We haven't really had a close family member pass, like since, he's been alive. So we haven't really had that sort of death conversation yet. But for me, it's where it's hit home is that I've had some peers that have passed away. A couple of years back, a good buddy of mine passed from colon cancer because he caught it way too late. I had lunch with him like probably a couple of weeks before he passed. And he was just so like, he was so amazing because it was like, look, it's like, he didn't come out and directly say it. It's like he knew he was going to die. You know, he knew it was probably coming up in not too long. But yet he wasn't focused on that. All he wanted to do was like, just like, look, I'm just focusing on living my life. He was still going to work every day. He was actually a very successful music industry person. He kept going to work, even like he'd go straight from his chemo, you know, to work. It's like, I don't know how he did it, but it's like, he just enjoyed life. It's like, I'm just going to continue to enjoy life, you know, every day that I have. And that's all that I can do. And, you know, some people talk about their legacies, right? Most people's legacies kind of fade pretty quickly. Everyone wants to think that they're really important, you know. But at the end of the day, there's very few people that stand the test of history, right? That actually people like, you know, remember who these historical figures are. But really where your legacy can come in is like, what your legacy is like, how did you leave your friends and family? Like, did you help other people? Did you plant seeds that allowed for like, you know, like for me right now, I mentor a couple of different people. So for me, that's my way of giving back so that even when I pass, like I've imparted a lot of my knowledge, you know, that I've, you know, kind of created, you know, generated over the years. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but you know, it's definitely a complicated subject, and it's, you know, I think it is one that people tend to shy away from. But I think what's great about Stoicism is that it does force you to kind of deal with it head on, and once you do, I think it becomes easier, like to think about, right? Because it's less daunting, and it's more just like, okay, I accept that this is going to happen. So what am I going to do about it today and tomorrow, and like keep going and live your life to the fullest. So that's what I do. And, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, but, you know, it's like, I don't really feel any older, honestly, because it's like, you know, I have my health and I have my mental capacities. As long as I have that, I'm just gonna keep going at full steam.
I love it. Keive, man, it's so great to connect with you here in this moment right now. So for everyone out there listening who all got a first grade education on Stoicism just now, where can they find you? Tell us about your brands, the Insta handles, all that. And if there's any musicians listening or managers, how can they connect with you?
Sure. So our website is engagerbrands.com. The best way to reach me is through my LinkedIn profile, and you can just search my name and find me there. And, you know, I respond to, you know, any, you know, requests and DMs there. You know, our brand, so Heavy Grass, it's Heavy Grass Official is our Insta. And then Neon_Roots is our Insta for Neon Roots, which is our, you know, rave brand. And that's where you can find out more. And, you know, yeah, I mean, look, it's a lot of fun. We're creating these brands, and we're always looking for good collaborations. So, you know, as long as it makes sense and it's an authentic connection to the audience, that's what's most important.
I love it. Keive, man, thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to perhaps a year from now talking about your Red Hot Chili Peppers Kush or something like that.
You got it, man. Yeah, there's going to be more coming, and yeah, it'll be fun to kind of follow this whole like evolution of the cannabis industry. And hey, man, let's face it, like cannabis and weed go kind of hand in hand. So I don't think that we'll be able to kind of talk about one without the other in the future. So happy to come back on in a year and check back in.
You made it this far. Thank you for listening, and a big thank you to our sponsors, Hemp Relief CBD, SEM Tickets, Devil Wind Brewing, and Artillery Productions. We got links in the description below. Go check out all the awesome stuff they've got going on, and yeah, much love, everyone.